upon a time there was a little boy who grew up on a farm.
More storms coming. Once upon a time, there was a little boy who grew up on a farm. On the farm, there would be sunny days and there would be stormy days. On stormy days, many of the storms would come in off the lake. The little boy could see the big black clouds in the distance making their way towards the farm, pushing the skies aside as they did. When he saw the clouds, he'd often grab his bike and start making his way toward the towel barn where they milked the cows. He'd ride down the gravel road past the racetrack where they trained the horses, past the calf barn, and down the hill that led to the barn where they milked the cows. As he would ride his bike, he could feel a cool, moist breeze starting to blow as the sun started to go away and the clouds rolled in. He'd race until he got to the towel barn and ride his bike into the big open door at the end of the barn and lean it up against the wall. Then he'd make his way to a small wooden ladder that was attached to the wall. He'd climb his way up the ladder and make his way through the square hole into the hayloft on the second floor. The floor would be slippery from all the straw that was stored up in the hayloft. He'd carefully walk over to one of the windows that looked out over the fields next to the barn. There was no glass in the window, and the bottom of the window was only inches from the floor, so he could sit on the edge of the window and dangle his feet over the edge and watch the storm making its way over the field. The wind would start to blow, and he loved the feeling of it on his face. There was something calming about the approaching darkness and the smell of the rain off in the distance making its way towards the farm. As he sat there, he looked out over the fields, watching the wind blow the wheat back and forth. He could see the train tracks that lined the back of the farm off in the distance. Eventually, he'd feel the first drop of rain on his face as the wind blew it through the window. He'd glance down and watch as the first drops of rain would kick up little puffs of dust as they started to wet the dirt driveway below. One drop became 2, 2 became 10, 10 became 100, and 100 became thousands, and before long, the rain would engulf the entire farm. The little boy loved the smell of the rain, and he noticed that there were different smells for different times of the year. In spring, it was the smell of wet, freshly plowed dirt. In summer, it was wet grass and plants. In fall, it was wet straw from the wheat field that was freshly cut. He'd sit there safe from the heavy rain, only getting a soft spray of an occasional drop of water. The damp, cool wind replacing the dry summer heat. It was comforting and relaxing. He felt protected from the rest of the world, as if the storm was acting as a blanket, keeping everything else out. The clouds swirled and turned over and over as they floated overhead. Eventually, the wind would calm, the clouds would pass, the rain would stop, and the sun would break through, creating a small layer of steam as the rain evaporated off the ground below. Once the storm passed, the little boy would climb back down the ladder, get on his bike, and head up the gravel road that led to the house, making sure to ride through every puddle left behind by the storm.